When somebody presents you a film like this, what was the initial pitch like? Hey, you're going to be spending a period of time in water and just screaming. Like, how does that work when...
Whit Godfrey, who I'd worked with before on the Maze Runner franchise, who's now at Paramount, sent it to me and asked me to read and kind of pitched to me that he wanted to see me carry a movie and be badass and be strong and play this girl who's, having emotional difficulties but is also a survivor. And then he kind of didn't mention how difficult physically it was going to be until I read it. I remember reading it the first time and thinking, oh my gosh, this will be the hardest job I've ever done. And that really excited me. I love that. I love the idea of pushing myself physically, mentally, emotionally. So it kind of felt right.
When you know that it's such a physically grueling experience, how do you prepare for that? Like, what months before, what do you do?
Months before, the first thing I did was call up my good friend George Ashwell, who's a personal trainer with 22 Training Gym in London, and he very kindly trained me twice a week. I'd never been to the gym before in my life. I was terrible, and he was very patient and kind and didn't shout at me or make me cry. And we worked together on just core strengthening and building some muscle. It wasn't to lose weight, I just wanted to feel strong. So I worked with him, and then I also started swimming for an hour a day every day at the London Aquatic Centre, just to also build my breathing up and my stamina. And I worked with a coach then professionally, so that helped a lot.
When you're then shooting a film like this, did you feel like you're ultra prepared for it, or was there things that still surprised you?
Completely not prepared at all. It's one thing swimming in a lovely swimming pool in an Olympic-sized arena. It's another thing swimming in a tank in Serbia with 25 crew members who've probably been peeing in it all day. It's completely different, but a lot more fun because it felt realistic to me, and it was great it was easy to slip into Hayley's mindset because I was experiencing it. We were all wet and miserable all day.
What was it like working with Barry? Because I love the scenes that you guys have where it's not just the fear, it's literally you have this, so what was that like to kind of work with him?
It's cool. I'd actually worked with him before on the Maze Runner franchise. We'd never really had any scenes together, but he was always around. So I knew he was a good guy. I knew he wasn't an asshole. I knew he wasn't going to come in and try and take over or have some sort of male ego issues. He's like a good actor and he focuses on the work and he wanted the project to be as great as possible. So it's really easy to slip into that dynamic with him.
To then leave work at the end of the day all wet or muddy and stuff. What was that like how do you unwind from a shoot like this?
I was really fortunate. I had my mum with me. She flew out to Serbia and to help me look after my son so that we were all together every night. She would make sure I'd remember to eat and she'd make me shower and she'd let me cry. And we'd just talk, and I had my best friends fly out to kind of remind me of normal life outside of it. But it was exhausting. It kind of all feels like a blur. There were days where I would get home covered head to toe in mud and blood and just sleep in it and go straight back into work the next day because it would save me time in the morning so I could get an extra 45 minutes sleep.
Even though there weren't real alligators there, I feel like, are you a specialist now of alligators if you ever encounter one on the street?
I mean, if I ever encounter one on the street, I'm still going to run. I'm not going to pretend to know what I'm doing at all. But I definitely have a newfound appreciation for them as animals. They were here before we were. There's something amazing in that.
What kind of a director is Alexandre? Because I just talked to him and he's so enthusiastic, and so
is he here? I haven't seen him yet.
He's down the hallway. But what is it like to kind of work with somebody who's such a good person at like kind of creating the tension, and he knows? So how does that kind of translate as a director to you?
It was amazing. That was my biggest fear is coming into a project like this. I've never worked with tension before on this scale, and it's a genre that I have no experience in. And it's really lovely knowing that he does. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he does it well. And he was really able to guide me through scenes, to tell me what level of panic I should be at to match the final level of tension that we were trying to build. And that's something that as an actor is difficult to think of in the moment because you're just dealing with your circumstances, whereas he always had in the back of his mind how he wanted the movie to play out and was able to guide me through that.
Because it's so technical and you have to step on things and be scared to hear, that must be so weird for your sense of memory because then you also have to act at the same time. So how do you do that?
I had to kind of just let go of everything and not think about it. I do love working instinctually. It's kind of how I've always worked. So I don't like to rehearse. I don't like to pre-plan. I like to just throw myself into it. But with this, you do need to know, okay, I have to be in this corner of the room at this point, and the alligator's going to come from this side, and so I have to run there. And that took me a little while to adjust to, but Alex was really great at kind of shouting during the scenes. He'd get into the character of the alligator for me and just scream at me, and I'd have that to react to.
The dog. I must speak
Cho
of the
Cho.
dog. Please talk about Cho Cho. And
Cho Cho is a love. She's amazing. She was actually a rescue dog in Serbia that trainers had found and trained her up, and she was absolutely lovely and wonderful. And she was the star of the show, as far as I'm concerned.
To do a film like this, it must be so nice to kind of step away and know that you can show this to your child when they're old enough. That you've done something that mom was very physical. Was that interesting for you? Was this a project that you liked?
Definitely. I wanted to push myself to the limit. I wanted to see how far I could go. I loved doing the Maze Runner films, but I always felt as though I could have done more. Teresa had a very specific journey in those movies, and I wanted to be Thomas sometimes. I wanted to play hard and fight hard. And this is my opportunity to do that. And I knew it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be physical. I knew it would be difficult juggling parenthood and doing this job every day. But I really wanted the challenge of that, and that's kind of what excited me the most about it.
When we watched this yesterday, literally our whole row we were squirming for two reasons. We all drank beforehand.
Good.
And then we couldn't leave because we wanted to see the film. But also we were really feeling like it was kind of clamping down on us. And so when you watch it and that audiences are kind of, is that fun for you to are you good with this kind of tension in general?
No, I'm terrible. I jump, I scream. My husband gets very annoyed with me because I ruin movies, because I then panic and can't breathe for the next hour. But I actually saw it with him recently, and he had so much fun watching it. It was fun seeing him enjoy it. It's the first time I've had that experience. And I think that's why, people need to go see this in the cinema with a big group, because you're all going to have that kind of shared experience.